At 3:17 a.m. on July 18, 2025, a series of drones lifted off from the rugged western coastline of Yemen. These weren't cheap commercial quadcopters modified in a basement with explosives duct taped to their undersides. These were military-grade unmanned aerial vehicles, specifically Iranian-designed Shahed series drones, and they were heading for a high-value target, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, a U.S. Navy nuclear-powered aircraft carrier currently patrolling international waters just off the coast of Eritrea, one of the most powerful symbols of American military presence in the Middle East. The attack was anything but random. The Shahed drones, most likely the Shahed 136 and its longer-range cousin, the Shahed 238, are not toys. They're kamikaze drones, technically classified as loitering munitions. Once launched, they don't return home. They're designed to find a target and explode on impact, acting as both surveillance tools and self-destructing missiles. With a range of up to 2,000 kilometers, they can strike targets far beyond the reach of conventional artillery, flying autonomously via GPS guidance and occasionally aided by real-time video feeds. They cruise low to the ground, typically at altitudes of 60 to 100 meters, hugging terrain and avoiding radar detection. Their distinctive triangle-shaped wingspan and loud propeller engine have earned them the grim nickname "Mopeds of Doom" among Ukrainian soldiers. The warhead they carry weighs around 40 kilograms, enough to punch a hole in a tank, crater a runway, or, in this case, do serious damage to exposed sections of a naval vessel. And while they're cheap by military standards, they've proven deadly time and time again. The Houthis have used them against Saudi oil fields, UAE infrastructure, and even ships passing through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. These same Shahed drones had already made headlines on a different front: Ukraine. Since 2022, Russia has deployed thousands of them against Ukrainian cities, energy infrastructure, and military targets. In fact, the first time many Western militaries encountered these drones up close was on the streets of Kiev, not the deserts of the Middle East. But this time, they were aiming higher than ever before. The Eisenhower wasn't just drifting through the dangerous waters without a plan. A trap was already in place. The Houthis had made their intentions clear for months. In response to Israel's ongoing actions in Gaza, they declared that any nation supporting the war crimes would be considered complicit. The United States was high on that list, but their Shahed drones' deadly payloads were flying straight into that trap. You see, the USS Eisenhower wasn't cruising alone. It was part of a tightly coordinated strike group under Operation Iron Tide monitoring threats in one of the world's busiest maritime choke points. With it were two Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, an Aegis cruiser, a nuclear-powered submarine, and overhead, an E-2D Hawkeye circling the sky like a watchful sentinel. But the Eisenhower wasn't just there for defense. It was bait. The Pentagon had seen the Houthis escalating. Since late 2024, they'd attacked commercial tankers, launched ballistic missiles, and repeatedly threatened U.S. military assets. Most of those attacks were intercepted or fell short, but intelligence analysts warned a larger move was coming. So the Navy let the Eisenhower linger, just long enough to invite attention. At 3:26 a.m., a P-8 Poseidon Maritime Patrol aircraft detected an unusual RF spike, a burst of encrypted chatter originating from deep inside Houthi territory. Within seconds, the Eisenhower's Combat Information Center was notified. 12 seconds later, the USS Thomas Hudner lit up its advanced radar suite, scanning for incoming threats. The drones, 6 in total, weren't flying in formation. They followed erratic, pre-programmed routes at staggered altitudes. The design was deliberate, meant to exploit radar blind spots and confuse tracking systems. This wasn't amateur hour. This was planned, precise, and potentially devastating. But the U.S. Navy wasn't relying on radar alone. High above the Red Sea, an MQ-9B Sea Guardian drone had been circling silently for nearly 10 hours. Its radar painted 4 of the targets almost instantly. Heat signatures confirmed they were attack drones, likely rigged with explosive warheads. 2 more popped up shortly after. The Red Sea had just become a battlefield. Inside the Eisenhower, the call went out. Flight operations ceased, hangar bays sealed, watertight doors locked. Sailors moved quickly to battle stations. This wasn't their first threat. It might not even be the worst, but it was real. The first response came from the USS Hudner. From its vertical launch system, 2 SM-2 missiles shot skyward. Their purpose wasn't necessarily to hit the drones. They were fired to flush them out. And it worked. One drone banked hard to the left. Another dove to sea-skimming altitude. A third climbed rapidly, likely to search for a better target lock. All of them were now exposed. The drone that dove low tried to exploit the radar shadow created by the sea itself, but it had no idea that the Eisenhower's latest defense systems weren't just watching, they were waiting. A high-energy laser known as Helios, recently installed on the carrier as part of a classified weapons test, locked on silently. Within seconds, the drone's electronics overheated, its control surfaces warped, and it spiraled into the ocean in a glowing arc of wreckage. The second drone, climbing for altitude, met a more conventional end. A Reaper drone, flying above the carrier group, released a Stinger missile. The missile closed the distance in under 10 seconds, striking the target midair. Fire bloomed across the night sky, then vanished. Another drone, this one maneuvering erratically at 60 knots, was picked up by the USS Gravely, trailing behind the main formation. Instead of engaging with weapons, the Gravely's electronic warfare suite jammed its signal, hijacking its GPS. The drone tried to correct, then pitched violently and fell into the sea without a sound. 3 drones down. 3 remained. One was now heading straight toward the Eisenhower from the starboard side, flying low, very low. It was trying to avoid radar and laser locks. At that distance and angle, it could cause real damage if it got through. But it never did. The carrier's close-in weapon system activated with its iconic whirring spin-up. A torrent of 20mm depleted uranium rounds shredded the drone before it got within 700 meters of the hull. The explosion sprayed fragments across the waves. Sailors on deck didn't even flinch. They'd seen worse during training. 2 left. One of the remaining drones abruptly changed course, heading northeast. Analysts later suspected it was equipped with a surveillance payload, not explosives, possibly to record and broadcast the strike for propaganda purposes. The Navy wasn't interested in letting that footage see the light of day. An FA-18E Super Hornet was already airborne. With one sidewinder, the drone disintegrated in the darkness. The last drone, oddly, never engaged. Instead, it hovered in a loiter pattern for almost 90 seconds before abruptly diving into the sea. Either it malfunctioned, or it was programmed to self-destruct if the strike failed. The message was clear. The attack was over. 6 drones launched, 6 drones neutralized. No casualties, no damage. But the story didn't end there. Right after the attack, the U.S. military began scanning the Yemeni coastline using satellites and surveillance drones. They quickly identified a few possible drone launch sites. Some were small buildings hidden in industrial areas, others were disguised inside civilian structures. Within 36 hours, the U.S. responded. Cruise missiles were launched from a nearby submarine. The strikes hit 4 targets at the same time during the night. These weren't random attacks, they were based on solid intelligence and aimed at locations linked to the drone operation. The Houthis lost more than just the 6 drones that day. They lost expensive equipment, workshops where drones were being assembled, and communication gear supplied by Iran. Still, it's important to understand that the Houthis are not a formal army. They don't have air bases or advanced training schools. They're a rebel group trying to fight with what they have, often using low-cost weapons and mobile launchers. Much of their gear comes from Iran, and they've learned how to use it effectively over years of war. The U.S. Navy is far more advanced and powerful. In almost every way, it's not even a fair comparison. But that doesn't mean the Houthis can't cause problems. Even with cheap weapons, they can still be dangerous, especially if they manage to surprise someone. If just one drone had gotten through and exploded on the Eisenhower's deck, the damage could have been serious. That's the risk of modern warfare. A small, low-cost weapon, if not detected, can do a lot of harm. So, while the U.S. may have stopped this attack without taking a single hit, the Red Sea remains a dangerous place. And next time, it could be different. If you found this video informative, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.